Welcome to Those Guys Sports. It's your boy Mike. This is my Raptors weekly podcast where I normally, especially recently, I've been talking about, you know, other NBA topics while also talking about the Raptors. That's more recently some of the podcasts that I've done, but I think I'm going to save the other NBA conversation for another day and time where I want to focus more on the Raptors. Like I always say, like and subscribe, follow, do all the things that I would hope and love for you to do. But the reason why I got to talk Raptors is because I think it's about time, even for myself, that we put a little truth in this team. That we talk about this team the way it should be spoken about. I'll talk about this week and what happened. Fred versus the refs. Pascal slump. And even Gary Trent Jr. slump. And probably the future of this team. But first, I want to talk about Raptor fans. And I don't know why I always do this to myself. Why I even care. Why I let it bother me. Why I let it infuse my thoughts sometimes. But it just bothers me. And I know probably a bunch of NBA, teams face this. A bunch of NBA fans are like this. So I can't act like it's just the Raptors that go through this. I can't. That would be selfish of me to think like that. And I know it's not the case. In saying that, and thinking about it all, what I'm not a fan of is every time the Raptors have like a losing streak, they lose a couple games here and there, people are like, trade the whole team. Now, all of a sudden, the untouchable guys on the Raptors, after this whole week, the untouchable guys is OG and Scott. And now the whole team is ready to be traded. Let's trade Fred again. Fred is just not it. Pascal slump? Oh, Pascal's not it. Pascal, who's averaging 25, 7, and 6. No, not it anymore. One of only 4 guys to do it in the league. No, he's not it. Let's trade him. Now I get their ceiling of this Raptors team isn't a title team. Let's be frank about it. They're not a title team. In most cases, what team is ceiling is a title team. Honestly, if we go down the line to the Eastern Conference, right now, Boston and Milwaukee and Philly are the only ones that are their ceiling is title teams. The Cavs ceiling is not a title team this year. Not this year. Unless Garland and Mobley get better, their ceiling is not a title team at all. They're really not. They're like a good, hot streak going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe make it to the finals, but they're not a championship team. They're not. They're really not. In the West, we have the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, and the Lakers, and the Clippers. Their ceiling is championship team. The Denver Nuggets, we want to say that their ceiling is championship team. We're saying it is, but none of us believe that they are a championship worthy team. Some people think that Golden State can beat the Nuggets, that the Clippers can beat the Nuggets, the Lakers can beat the Nuggets. So they're not a championship team. There's a really good squad that can make it to the Western Conference Finals. Where some people don't even believe that. And that's a team that I would say, if they don't make it to at least the Western Conference Finals, you're going to see a lot of changes. I think this offseason could be a crazy offseason because so much teams are in this, we got to win now or nothing else. Which leads me back to my original point about the Raptors. Raptor fans, it's not a championship winning team. You wanted Masai and Bobby to, strip the team away and go for a top draft pick. But who's to say that next year we would have been good? My thing is the want of trading a bunch of players, being bad, what does that get you? Orlando has had top 5, or I'll say they've had top 10 picks for the past 5 years. Nothing has come of it. Detroit, same thing. Cade is injured. Jaden Ivey, I don't believe has had the outcome that we wanted. I think as NBA fans to see, we thought this guy was gonna be like a new, our newer version of John Morant because he was so good at Purdue. Look at the Kings; they have had draft picks galore. Hasn't Nothing's happened. Nothing's happened for this team. When they got Buddy Hield, they thought they were gonna get Steph Curry. They're like, "Oh, Buddy, here's the next Steph Curry." DeMarcus Cousins, who I thought had the potential of being a top 5 player in the league. Some days I'd watch him play. I'm like, this guy could be the best player in the league if he just honestly fixed his attitude. That's what people were thinking. That's what I was thinking for sure. They got De'Aaron Fox. They got Halliburton. This is a team that has gotten draft picks. Halliburton was good. I think the Fox and Halliburton were their best picks for sure. DeMarcus Cousins was a pretty good pick too. Buddy Hield was a good pick. Like all these guys were good picks. But of course, the worst one being Marvin Bagley, who I genuinely thought was gonna be a good player. I thought they got it. I thought their franchise was gonna get turned around for that. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Bagley was a really good. I saw the tapes. I'm like, this guy's gonna be something. This guy is like Chris Bosh, like offensively, like he's gifted. Defensively, possibly needs some help, but still gifted. Didn't happen that way. So Raptor fans, when you're like, let's trade the whole team after a 3-game losing streak, look around you. Look at the teams in both conferences, and realize to yourself, do you want to be them? The Washington Wizards, a team that has darn near the same record as you. The Raptors, you're better than them. You are. You have better talent. Yes, Bradley Beal. Some will probably say he's probably better than Pascal, but that's depending on who is talking. But the Washington Wizards are a team, once again, have had top 5, top 10 draft picks. Abdia, Rui, Beal, Wall. These guys have never won 50 games in the past, 30 years, okay? And it's a team that has constantly been drafting. But they've never made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. At least the Raptors made it one time to the Eastern Conference Finals, at least, with DeMar and Kyle. This Wizards team has gone nowhere. Second round exit so much times. So when we're wanting a tank, when we're wanting us to trade everyone, look at the outcomes. You are assuming that when you trade everybody, you're assuming when you trade everyone that you're going to be good the following years. That's not how it works. There's only been OKC that's drafted well, that's gone to where they are. The next team that's been like that has been Boston, who's drafted well and got where they were. Milwaukee was one draft pick, and Middleton was a trade that they didn't think it was gonna be this, and Holiday was a trade. The Bucks have they had one good draft. All you ever need in this life is to hit once, then you're good. Milwaukee hit once, and it was a good hit with getting Giannis. Look at Denver, same thing. But Jokic is a second round pick. Jokic is not a first round pick. That they just said, hey, let's just get this guy. They drafted someone else before him. He just hit. The MVP. He just hit. You don't always get that. Boston drafted well and got those two guys. Even got Marcus Smart. They did well. Look at Atlanta. They drafted Trey. They're only 2 games above the Raptors. They traded for DeJounte Murray. Everyone's like, this team would be great defensively. This team can help out Trey. Trey's gonna play off ball, blah blah. Look at them. They're the same boat as you, and they lost a lot more picks than the 2024 draft pick. Okay, at least we're in this year's draft where we can get a top 10, top 15 pick that can help complement this team. So sometimes the grass is not always greener. Now, I'm not saying we should have got Pirtle or whatever. I think Pirtle's been a great pick. I think he's a solid center. I think he's a center that you still want on your team. I think I would sign him. Yeah, I would definitely sign him. The thing is, people are assuming Fred's going to decline his player option. and not pick it up. The incentive for him to decline it is that he'll be a top 7 free agent this year. Honestly, he could be top 5. I think the only number one guy is Kyrie. And then it's Harden if he decides to. I think Harden can opt out, which I believe he will. They have Harden. And I don't know who else we're really looking at. No one. Chris Middleton can opt out, and he can be one. But I'm pretty sure Milwaukee is gonna sign him because they have Giannis. So you're gonna sign Chris Middleton. So yeah, like Fred is a top free agent, so you're gonna pay him. Pirtle will be probably a top 15 free agent. You're gonna pay him too. Gary, see this last, and I'll get to Gary. This last few, I would say week or two, hasn't been great for Gary. This kind of shows where his value is, where he may want to be a 25 million dollar a year. Unless he's gonna show out in the playoffs, he's not getting that contract. Gary's a shooter, but he's not getting that. He's gonna get he may get the Duncan Robinson, Norman Powell contract, which he kind of had and has right now. So, but Raptor fans, we can't be looking at. We're looking at this wrong, and I think we always do. Like, once again, it's my fault for looking at Twitter sometimes, and then thinking to myself, like, hey, like, this team is one trade away, or hey, this team needs to trade Pascal and Fred. Hey, this team should have traded Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant. Look at Kevin Durant. Respectfully, Kevin Durant's out for another 2-3 weeks. Okay, his injury concerns are actually a thing. I tweeted. Oh, sorry, I messaged my friend, and I'm like, hey, would you do it? And he straight up told me, you know what? With Kevin Durant's injury concern, maybe I wouldn't do it. He didn't say maybe. He said I would not do it. It made me think about it. Like, you know what? As much as I want to say that I would love to get Kevin Durant, but if I have to trade Scotty Barnes, who's only like 20, no, I won't do it. I think Scotty Barnes' potential, yes, Scotty may not be a number one guy. Like, when watching Scotty's game, and I think in the offseason we'll probably dive into more what Scotty's role can be. But I think Scotty is that, like, better version of Draymond Green. I think he could be the ultimate version of Ben Simmons. I think he can honestly be that. I think he can give you 28 and 8 a game on good efficiency if he's like scoring around the basket. Now, when it comes to OG, I want to keep OG because he's a great defender, and I think what his like. But I always say if he's unhappy, then you do the trade. Now, when it comes to Pascal and Fred, I would say more for Pascal. I'm keeping Pascal. You want to have a good squad still, right? I don't want to be trash. So Raptor fans, when we are like trade everyone off of 3 games, yes, Pascal hasn't been great the past couple games. He hasn't been great. And I'll make that probably my next topic, him and Gary. He hasn't been great. But once again, you have an all-star player, a guy who won't make All-NBA this year, but he has All-NBA numbers. If the Raptors were 34 and 34 right now, they would have people would start talking about Pascal's All-NBA case. If Pascal ends the season, giving us 30 a game, then the conversation can come back. But he's a guy in the past few years, past 3 years, was an All-NBA player twice. And this is all without everyone's savior, Kawhi. I'm just saying that sometimes the grass is not always greener. So this tank mode, this deflated mode is not gonna work out. And mind you, I really want to win against LA. That was probably the worst loss out of all 3. And I thought the Denver loss was pretty bad, but that Lakers one honestly sticks with me a little bit more. The Denver one definitely stuck with me. I needed a day. That Clippers game couldn't come any quicker. I needed that game. I couldn't stand what had happened. Now I'm gonna move on to the next topic, which is Pascal and Gary. So Pascal Siakam and Gary Trent have both been playing pretty poor, like incredibly poor. There's no way to sugarcoat it. They've both been, quite frankly, just mediocre. Um, if I talk about Pascal, it's like this. Pascal, I keep saying it. He's an All NBA player. He is he is a two-time All Star, a two-time All NBA player. I don't think you just let that go after a couple games. I think this year, I will say, I do think the Pascal conversation has been better. It has been a lot better. It hasn't been as toxic as it was before, because I thought that was really toxic from a lot of Raptor fans. So I would say it's much better, much better that conversation is. Now I'm saying that I still see it though. I still see the Trey Pascal talk. I still see that he should be up for trade talk. Here's the thing: Pascal Siakam goes he gets added to a team. To me, that team's ceiling is much higher now because you have arguably a second player or you have a third. Like if Pascal was on the Warriors, people would be like, okay, the Warriors are good. Pascal going down the lane, either he's gonna get a nice bucket or he's gonna pass it off to Curry and Clay. Like you know what I'm saying? Like Pascal right now is basically he's a better version of offensively, especially of what Draymond was. So to me, sorry. Even one real quick thing that I have to say, I see a lot of people think that Scotty and OG and Pascal can play together. Their talents are also similar. No, no. No, their talents are not. OG's not passing the ball the way Scotty and Pascal can. That's not happening. Not a thing. He can't do that. OG's also he's a good rebounder, but Pascal is a pretty good rebounder, and so is Scotty, and just our all around games are just different. Now I would say that Scotty and Pascal more resemble each other, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think sometimes it's okay to like have two guys kind of have almost similar game sets. Now I don't think Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum have similar game sets, but you know what? I think they both want to be the number one guy. Jalen has done a better job just saying, "Hey, I'll be number two," and that just happens sometimes. So I think sometimes you'll have guys who have overlapping games that don't match. Like LeBron and Westbrook are very similar in game, very similar, but they don't complement each other unless it's just those two. We put Anthony Davis on, then you have three guys who rather play close to the basket. As much as LeBron shoots, if you see the way he plays, he'd rather play way closer to the basket. So would Anthony Davis, so would Russell Westbrook. Doesn't work out. We have three guys like that. But I think you can have two guys who are very similar in game. Um, yeah, you have two guys. You have two guys, and Steph and KD were able to shoot the ball the way they do. But everyone says, "Oh, KD's just he's the most you can put on any team, and he'll make it work." I think a lot of times you can make it work. If you're two good players, you can make that work. Now, I think one of the problems with Pascal this season, or not this season, this past couple games, I think his aggressiveness is a little different nowadays. Um, but in watching the games, especially I think it was the Clippers game, it just looks like a lot of his buckets weren't going in. And I know that's a weird thing to say because that's literally make or miss league. But it was like it was in, swiveled around the net, and then went back out. A lot of that. A lot of just missed bunnies that just normally go in. And I just think he's not having a good stretch, especially I feel like his shooting was a little better. I could maybe the stats will show not. But I feel like himself around the rim and trying to get those easy baskets have been kind of poor this past stretch. This past stretch, I think they've been kind of poor. Now, once again, I'm not going to fault it. I'm not going to discredit Pascal. And like I said, I think this year's been a lot better with the Pascal talk. I think people have realized that Pascal was the man was the best player on the team for so long. For so long, he was the best player on the team. So, and he honestly was carrying this team. He was legit carrying these guys, just carrying them to be better. I have the Raptors stats up just now, and I'm just looking at it like Scotty's averaging basically 16. I'm gonna round up 16, 7, and 5. That's nice. 16, 7, and 5 is nice. Like this Raptor team still has so much like this. Everyone's good. Like everyone's good. It's just a lot of things haven't been good at all. I haven't been good. So that's my Pascal things. You know, I'm gonna move on because I don't think Pascal. I think he's just having. A, I think he's having a couple bad games. I believe he will get back. You know, the Raptors having a couple, like they have a few games off, days off, and having these days off, I really think can revamp this team, wake this team. Yes, we wanted this road trip to be much better, but arguably they're facing really good teams, and we'll get to the week that was. Now with Gary, I don't know. He's been playing really bad lately. He's been playing really bad lately, really bad. I don't know. He's missing a lot of his shots. It's like the confidence is a little gone. It's been for probably 2 weeks now. Where Gary just hasn't been the guy that like he hasn't been Gary Trent Jr. Just hasn't been him. The guy who I think like most times he's an X factor to me because his ability to score the basket is arguably better than the rest of the team. Um, he probably has the best jumper, best. You can argue with him and Fred, the best shooter. He's a shooter, right? He may not want to be called a shooter, but he's a shooter. He's a guy who can get you 20 points a game, like. And yeah, I think he had one recent game where I think it was like he scored like 20 something points. But I would say he just hasn't been that player that we kind of expect from him. You know, he just hasn't been good. See, his last 5 games against LA, 0 points. 7 points against the Clippers, 13 against Denver. Washington, 26. But the Washington game before that, he had 4. Now, Washington before they only played like it was a Thursday, only played 18 minutes. That game was kind of rough, but that was rough for him. Like he wasn't playing well. Like he was not good. Look at his field goal percentage, 18%. Then 66% is not bad. 61%, but then like 28%. Like he just hasn't. That LA game was really tough for him. That LA game was really tough. He's had a bad stretch, and you're hoping it's just a bad stretch. You're really hoping it's just a bad stretch, because it just wasn't. It was little shaky, I would say. See, if I go back to Pascal's last 5, let's see. See, this is where Pascal hasn't had a great 5 either, right? 12, 20, 19, 15, 13. But, of course, Pascal does a lot of other things. He was 20, when he had 20 points, 6 and 5 against the Clippers, 19, 4 and 4 against Denver, 15, 8 and 4, then 13, 11 and 6. Like, he's still doing a bunch of other things where Gary is a scorer, so he's not really doing the rest. He's not doing the rest of what you want. You're hoping all this is a slump because some days, I'm telling you, offensively, so I look at this squad and how I think it should be sometimes, and of course I change just like everyone else. I look at the squad and I'm like, okay, Pascal's your number 1 option. Yes, Fred is your number 2, but it's kind of like Fred and Gary. When Gary's comes off the bench, then Gary, like, not even option. Like, I mean, I should say, at the end of the day, when the points are totaled, even in the playoffs, I think Pascal got to give you 25. I think Gary got to give you 20. I think Fred got to give you like 20. OG got to give you like 18. Scott got to give you like 18. Now, that's so much on them, but that's just how this team runs. This team has 5 guys who can score the basket, and everyone else can kind of get the pickings. That's just how it looks, okay? That's where, a Precious comes in, a Boucher comes in, a Pirtle comes in, a Will Barton comes in, and a Thad comes in. You have those 5 guys who are supposed to give you the most. Look at their averages. That's what I honestly see, but I would see in the playoff time, I would want Gary to have an uptick in his average. I would want Gary to play a little bit better. But Gary hasn't been good. Gary and Pascal, it's clear as day that this Raptors team hasn't been good the past 5 games. Right? Hasn't been good the past 5 games. The 2 guys you need to step up for them to be better are those 2 guys, Gary and Pascal. Because offensively, what they can do, they're more dynamic right now than anyone else. Pascal has more moves than anyone else. Gary has more moves than anyone else. It's hard for Fred sometimes. OG's hard for, and Scotty's still learning all his move sets. Where I think Pascal and Gary are the two best guys at, if I want the ball in anyone's hands at the end of the game, those are my first two options. Then I'll go Scotty. Right? I mean, like last second shot. Last second of those two guys. Then I'm going to say Scotty. Then I'm going to say Fred. Then I'm going to say OG. But we just haven't seen them play well. It's not good. I think we can all agree that this Raptors team could be a lot better. A lot better. Now, I mentioned Precious, and I'll talk about Precious. He's been absolute. I think he'll say it himself. So when I say that, it means respectfully. He's been trash for the past couple games. He's been really bad the past couple games. He has single-handedly been like the worst bench player that we've seen. And I've said Gary has been good, but the thing with Precious that makes it more shitty, I would say with Precious, is that we all believed that Precious was going to be a lot better. We all had a lot of Precious Achiuwa stock. We're like, this year Precious, he may be the starting point guard. Starting center. Oh, point guard be trash. But we were like, he's going to start center. Everything's going to be going great. Precious. We all thought that. We all thought Precious was going to be like amazing. That did not happen. Precious has not been good all season. Precious, he hasn't been all season. He hasn't been good. He had a stretch, a week or two that he was good. Other than that, we all can say he's not been good. At all. Precious right now has not been playing well enough that people can start talking about trading him. I've seen people talk about it. I'm not saying I would do it. I get a little emotional with this team. I don't want to say I'll trade anyone sometimes, but sometimes I know you got to make moves to make moves. But like I said in one of my videos, I'm like, the Raptors team, what the best option to do is chill. You don't need to always make a move right away. Sometimes the offseason will be better. And I love when the offseason is better. Then every Raptor fan is going to be like, oh, Masai's a genius, Masai's a genius. The same people who are clowning Masai and Bobby are going to call him a genius in the offseason. Because sometimes you got to look at the way the landscape is. You want the best deal and the best outcome. We're here to win games. Simple. Let's win games now. But Precious hasn't been good at all. But how did this week go? The week was not great. 0-3. This week, the Raptors was tough. Like I said, 0-3. That Denver game. We're gonna go from the beginning. The Denver game. They were. You know what? One thing I'll say about all three games, they played tough. They played tough all three games. They really did. Like, I thought this is gonna sound like an oxymoron sometimes. This last three game stretch of the Raptors was the best play that they've had consistently all season. Like, their energy. Of course, like I said, Pascal and Gary have not been good offensively, but honestly, the team overall was good. Pirtle was good, Fred was good, OG and Scotty had really good LA games. I would say like they didn't play trash. Like, they came up, they didn't. First quarter was good. They didn't have a dumb lull like with the Washington game where they're down like 7 twice in both games. I swear it was like that. Like, didn't have that. They were actually good. Like, they were good. Like, they showed that they can compete with any team. That's what I can really say. All those games, they showed that they can compete with anybody. They showed it. They really did. Now, in saying all that Denver game, honestly, they led throughout the game until the final, 4 or 5 minutes where Denver went on a run. Denver's a good team. Denver's a good team. The first in the West. Frustrating loss. The worst part about it was Scotty getting ejected. That was pretty shitty. Scotty getting ejected. For some people who don't know what it was, but did he show out the ref? The ref is going to teach him, like, hey, you still young. Got to talk to me nicely. So maybe that's what happened. It just wasn't good. It was a pretty shitty ending. In that game, yeah, just the calls were just so bad. The calls were so bad. Everything went against the Raptors. Everything went against them. The challenge that they had went against them. The challenge that Denver had went for them. Then Scotty gets moved, and then like the intentional foul on Pirtle, which is what is gonna hurt the Raptors. So it's one of those things where that's where that small ball has to come, where Gary comes back on the court. So you have five guys who can at least shoot 70% and above free throw. And the crazy thing is that Pirtle, I think since joining the Raptors, he's been a pretty good free throw shooter. At least in my estimation, from my eye test, I think he's been pretty good. But that was a pressure point. He had a lot of pressure on him. We really needed those two baskets, and it just didn't happen. It didn't happen at all for them. So it's kind of unfortunate. But I ultimately thought that he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. It was just an unfortunate situation. That Denver game, honestly, the refs against the Raptors. It was the refs against the Raptors at one point. At the end, it was really bad. Which leads to that Clippers game, which I didn't really watch a lot of it, but I know the Raptors were up at one point, and then kind of once again with Denver, same thing with Denver. All three games, they were up, and then they just lost it. And I know it's like the whole season was technically that, where the Raptors have been up, they've been good, and then they just fall at the end. And this is where sometimes you may need a closer, you may need that guy to get you over the top, or I think the team gets a little bit of like they lose the team basketball side of things, and that's what I think happened as well. The team basketball was gone, where that should never be the case, because you need team ball. You need team ball to help you out. That's just no. That's what I can say. I can say from watching, I feel like the team concept kind of goes away. I think they also play kind of frantic. They don't play. They don't play with an urgency that they should play with, even when they're up. There's no urgency. There's no urgency to shut a team down, to end a run. There's no urgency to honestly shut a team up. There's no energy at the end. Like Scotty was down. They were down 5 to the Lakers, and Scotty dunked or shot a 3 and had so much energy, but the team didn't kind of join him in that energy. And that's where I think it's a Pascal and Fred fault, because they're the leaders of the squad. You got to call out your leaders, and the leaders should have been better. The leaders of Pascal and Fred need to be the ones with the energy. They need to show like, hey, they have to show that they can beat any team. If they don't believe it, why would anyone else believe it? So they need to show more energy. They need to be a little bit more cocky and confident. One of the reasons why that championship team without Kawhi was so good is because there was a confidence in them. A straight confidence. Even last year was a confidence in them. A weird confidence that like, we're better than this. This year is like there's no confidence that they have. I don't know what it was. I thought maybe in the beginning it's because they didn't have a center. And then we got a center. You kind of saw a swagger back. Even though before they're getting Pirtle, there was a little bit of a swagger back. But it seemed kind of like the swagger's gone again. And that's all they need is that confidence. Because the confidence is so key. And for that team like them, when everyone's hitting well and believes in each other, it's good. Yeah, Clippers game, it is what it is. Also, like, Kawhi didn't have a lot of points, but every point he hit, every shot he hit, every dunk he had was meaningful. And that's what Kawhi is. Like, he doesn't just score, like, baskets, man. He plays meaningful basketball. Like, everything he does is with a purpose. And that's why he is who he is. That's why Kawhi is who he is at the end of the day. Now with the LA Lakers game, up first quarter, sucked in the second quarter. Third quarter was amazing. Ended the third quarter poorly. Started the fourth quarter poorly, and just didn't come back. Austin Reeves and the bench of the Lakers shit on the Raptors and their bench. Lakers wanted it more. It was clear as day. They wanted it more. Now, the one thing I will say is with the lineups, I would say with Nick Nurse, and I'm still diving into the week, but one thing I would say with the lineups is I feel like Nick Nurse, and I'm not no coach, but my mindset is Pascal or Fred should be on the court at all times. One of them got to sit down. One of those two have to be on the court. Have to be. You can't sit Fred, Pascal, and OG all at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. and Scotty. Two out of the four guys got to be on the court. They just have to. I think sometimes the stretches that haven't been good is like certain like I don't think my estimation, Scotty and OG Camp shouldn't be on the court at the same time together. I don't see it. Uh, Both, of course, great players. They shouldn't be on the court at the same time together. Fred could be on the court with anyone. Pascal could be on the court with anyone. So it's more like you just got to put one of those two guys with somebody else. But I don't think you can put OG and Scotty, unless maybe there's Gary on the court too, because then Gary can be your scorer. So that's, you know what, that could be possible. But I just, Gary's play hasn't been great, right? And I think that's another thing, right? Gary's game hasn't been good, which has also caused this as well. You need Gary. Like, this team isn't good enough to not need all five guys, like all six guys, I would say. They need a good. They need all six guys to play, and that's like kind of shitty, right? And they don't all have to score well, but they need to still be efficient. Gary was not efficient, so that sucks. Where the Lakers just went crazy. They wanted it more. They worked harder. That's the one thing I saw from the Lakers team. They worked harder than the Raptors team. They worked way harder, way harder than the Raptors team. That's the thing. They're just being outplayed and outperformed. Like, teams are going in against the Raptors and believing like this is easy. They're not the try hard team anymore. Like, the try hard team is dead. Or at least the way it looks sometimes. The try hard team is dead. There's no fight in the team. And that's, I think, the shittiest part about this Raptors team. The try hard team is gone. They don't compete the way they used to. It's not good. It's not good. I think that's where it sucks. But I realize I've been going kind of long, so I'm not gonna cut myself out yet. It's my own podcast. I'm not getting sponsored, so why the hell not? But I did want to talk about the core. I know I kind of talked about it in the beginning about the core. Um, the core. Do I feel like there needs to be changes? Kind of what I said in the beginning. You do what's best with the team. What's best for the team, all in all, is to win games. So whatever Masai and Bobby choose to do, that's what they got to do. That was a brief thing about the core. Also, with this week, I want to talk about Fred's comments about with Ben Taylor. He called out a ref. I can say that Lakers game was after, and I can say that the calls went one way a little bit. But because you call out a ref, you're gonna get called out too, man. The ref's not gonna mess with that. They're also a brotherhood within themselves, and they're not gonna have you call out one of their brothers and say, "Oh, Ben Taylor wasn't good," whatever, whatever. Now the stats are showing that Ben Taylor does tech Fred more than any other ref. That's for sure. And that tech in the Clippers game wasn't really warranted. It looked. Now, does it make it good? Does it make it something we want to do? It's one of those things. It just almost happens. But Fred saying what he said, I think a lot of players agree with him, and I mean they agree with what he's standing for. That, like, hey, like, we're trying to play a game here. We're all trying to make the playoffs here. We're all trying to fight. Like, we're all fighting. We are fighting to win some games, and like, you are honestly killing us. You're killing us. So this stuff doesn't fly. You're killing us. We're trying to win games here. Now, I will end the podcast now. Now, but me ending it, I'm going to talk about this week's Raptors games. They faced the Denver Nuggets on Tuesday, Oklahoma City Thunder on Thursday, and Minnesota on Saturday. Now, OKC, that game, that's a tough game because they're a team that's not really competing but still competing. If that makes any sense? They're still like doing their thing. And so I don't know what's gonna happen there, but they're definitely doing their thing overall. So, and the Minnesota's a team that's fighting as well for some seeding, and they've been playing really well lately. I like that Minnesota squad. Clearly, Karl Anthony Towns conversation will happen. If you can trade a Karl Anthony Towns and get someone who can complement a Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards, like what that team is missing is a small forward who can score. They don't have any draft picks anymore. But if they did, or if they could honestly trade, and this may not be a fair trade, but if you could trade a Karl Anthony Towns for Mikal Bridges, especially the way he's scoring lately, that's like I'm just saying, trading for Mikal Bridges and a Cam Johnson, you just flip those two guys back and go to Minnesota for Karl Anthony Towns and maybe like something else. I'm thinking Minnesota. You think about it because I think it's his team. I think we should just label it as his team. Karl Anthony Towns is a great player, but it's I think it's his team for sure. I also can see Anthony Edwards becoming the face of the league, the new American guy because of the whole Josh situation, which it is what it is there. But I would say with this three, I'm gonna be optimistic. I don't know why, but I'm gonna be optimistic. I think the Raptors can go 3-0 this. You know what? And they have Milwaukee. Ooh, they have the Milwaukee game on Sunday, which is a back to back with Minnesota, and it's in Milwaukee. So this team can go 3-1 this week. Because I would say their next three with Indiana, mind you, that the game on Sunday, their next game is Wednesday. So, Nick is going to play everyone 45 minutes because they're like, hey, you know, if Milwaukee has a back to back, which I don't believe they do, because then they won't play. Like, Giannis hasn't played a couple games. So, I don't know how that's going to be. I'm going to quickly look at, they do not have a back to back. These guys have like 2 days off. So the Raptors are definitely going to go 3-1 because they definitely have a bunch of games off. Yep, yeah, Milwaukee will definitely win that game. Even so, even without Giannis to win that game because Drew Holiday, Middleton, everyone's been good. So unless they do, and they're going to play. Like they have a couple games off. They're going to play, 1,000%. So I think the Raptors will beat Denver. You're actually hoping to beat Denver, but I would say this week is a 3-1 week for the Raptors. That's what I'm hoping for. Who knows? But yeah, that's it for the podcast. Tell me what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and comment. The grass is not always greener. This team is not who they are still. I get that. We have to be honest with ourselves. They're not that team. They're not a championship caliber team. Good team. The goal to me is for 8th seed. That's the goal. The goal should not be, we're not going to reach Miami unless they start losing. We're not going to reach Miami. Definitely not reach Brooklyn. Brooklyn's going to take that 6th seed. So that's something that as much as you want to aim for it, that's just not going to happen. The goal is to get to 8th. The goal is, the main goal for the Raptors is to have one play-in game. Have one. You do not want two. You do not want two. You're either going to tank to the bottom or you go in for that 1/8 seed playing game. That's what you're gonna go for. That's what you aim for. That's what I'm thinking you aim for, and I'm hoping they aim for it. It has to be you go for the 8th. You go for the 8th seed. So you gotta try to go face Miami in the playoffs, which is gonna be annoying. But that's the that's what you gotta go for. But yeah, that's it. It's your boy Mike. Like, subscribe, follow on all social media platforms, TikTok and everything else. And I'll talk to you guys again. Peace.